Mr. Ludwig, you have the invocation of moment of silence.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize. I had a lighthearted prayer planned for tonight. However, world events have made me change my mind. I think I need to take a little more serious tone, which I think is a little more appropriate. As Americans, we have the privilege, the burden, and the honor to lead because we live free. Yes, we can disagree, and yes, we can be passionate in our disagreements. But I respectfully ask, in lieu of today's tragic events in Brussels, that we all reflect on who our true adversaries are. It is not each other. Please take a moment to pray and remember the good people who lost their lives today, and for those who may have been injured in today's terror attack in Brussels. America, we need to awake from our slumber. Our friends need us. Please take a moment. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America. Thank you, Mr. Ludwig. In the event of emergency or a fire, our evacuation exits are to the rear of the chambers or out to the left, downstairs to the right to the parking lot. Kathy, could I have roll call, please?
Mr. Ludwig.
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc.
Here.
Mr. Neville.
Here.
Mrs. Thurston. Mr. Grady.
Here.
Mr. Cruzel.
Here.
Mr. Peabody. Mrs. Ungary. Chairman Serrard.
Here. Let the record show that Ms. Ungary is away on business. Board guests, Dr. Schuman.
Not this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Superintendent's report, Dr. Schuman.
Thank you. Both of our representatives, represented from both schools, one is busy with academics and two are busy with Buzz Robotics. In case you did not see, Buzz Robotics won their district championship, or district event this past weekend up at WPI, and I know that the guys are busy making some refinements to the robot, and they're going to be busy right along. I do have their championship banner, but we're going to wait till they get here to share it with you. But just other thing, if you don't know, they will be going again in Hartford on the weekend of April 1st. And these competitions are open to the public. They're free of charge, and they're also available to watch live on the Internet. So I've been able to watch just about all their matches, and you can too, on your iPad or on your computer. And if you need the URL, we'd be happy to furnish that for you. In your report, you do have some information from them, as well as the March and April events. You know that school will be closed this Friday in honor of Good Friday, and the grants and personnel reports are there also for you.
Thank you, Dr. Schuman. Audiences. We were very generous with time in the past. We are holding to the 3-minute time mark this time. Mr. Ludwig will be keeping time. He will give you a 2.5-minute mark. I ask that you come, you put your name on the list. As you come up, and your 3 minutes are up, I ask that you please sit back down. You have a second bite at the apple. You can come back up for another 3 minutes, and then the third bite at the apple if needed. I'm also asking that if you've presented an item and you have nothing else to add that's new, that you just keep the meeting moving, and we'll get through this. So, Mr. Wesleyza.
Hello, everybody. Vinny Wesley, 12 Deer Run. Trying new glasses out, so I hope this works. This is going to be a little difficult. And what I'm here to say is more for some of the people listening than addressing the board right now. But on March 8th, the Board of Ed made a decision to release Fermi to the town without the use of any professional study for either Fermi or JFK to support the decision.
Could you check and make sure that the red light's on? It is? Okay.
Yeah, it is on. Okay. Can you? Oh, okay. Without the use of any professional study for JFK or Fermi to support their decision. They ignored pleas from the community to take more time to do proper due diligence to make a truly informed decision, stating they had all the information they need, and abruptly voted. 7 days later, there are two committees being formed, or were going to be formed by the town council, a joint facilities committee and a JFK middle school pre-referendum committee. It was my impression that there was no need for any further committees to make this decision. Per a mail that I seen posted online from Scott Copen to a reply to someone that asked him a question, the committee will be for the Town Council and Board of Ed to establish a JFK Middle School pre-referendum committee comprised of residents, staff at JFK, town staff, liaisons from both Town Council and Board of Ed. The charge of this committee would be to develop a project scope and cost for upgrades to JFK. The committee to present their findings in a July Town Council meeting. It seems like a lot of that stuff that they talk about, that he talks about in that paragraph, should have been done before we made a decision. He also goes on to talk about some of the things for space. As for need for space inside the school, I see the committee looking at various alternatives to add classroom space. Can we build a black wing? Can we build classrooms between Red House and Black House where current modular classrooms are? Are there new types of modular classrooms that have nicer appearance and can be connected to the school? Again, all things I think we should have had determined before we released a building to the town. During this process, we were made to believe that we were going to be part of the process. To me, there was some predetermined outcome stemming from decisions made 4+ years ago, and the last 4 years were nothing more than the powers that be trying to convince us to support their master plan. When they could not, the Board of Ed jammed a decision on us, knowing that our recourses were limited. I could only speak for myself, but my conditions for supporting any referendum or referendums to appropriate funds for the JFK buildings would be the following. A committee formed to comprise of residents, staff, town staff, and liaisons for both Town Council and Board of Ed. The charge of this committee would be to develop a project scope and cost to upgrade for both facilities, similar to what Mr. Copen wants to do for the Town Council's committee. I could do it. Professional studies conducted at both JFK to aid in the board's decisions, and the board must be able to demonstrate that they have a true 20-year strategic plan for the facilities they have selected, which includes ongoing maintenance. Without meeting this criteria, I feel the minimum action required to make a $20 million 20-year decision, there is no way I can support a facilities or energy referendum. These are my personal conditions, and I can only speak for myself. But to this point, none of these conditions have been met. And right now, I cannot vote for any referendums that put more money into JFK without knowing these answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wesley. Shannon Grant.
Shannon Grant, 49 Yale Drive. I haven't had an opportunity to watch the town council meeting from last night, but I did have an opportunity to pull the proposed budget off of the online system. And at the end of the budget, I have to commend the town manager that he posted year-to-date expenses, which I appreciate, because I love numbers, and I'm going to go over some of those with you. And not too many, because I have 3 minutes, but school electric switchgear was in the budget for $450,000. It was adjusted, negative $450,000. School window replacement was in the budget for $30,000. It was adjusted, negative $28,000. School ADA compliance was in the budget for $20,000. It was adjusted, negative $11,805. I'm not going to go on. It seems like the Board of Ed budget from the town council side for capital improvements is regularly adjusted down. And I guess I'll lie. I'm going to go 2 more. Boilers for schools was in the budget, $496,000, adjusted down $218,000. Heating systems for schools, $840,000. Adjusted down $840,000. These are the repairs that they were asking for in the referendum. It was in the budget. Why haven't they been done? Another thing I noticed, there was an upturn in one of the numbers. Excuse me. The police vehicles was at 62, I believe. I'm having trouble finding it as I'm sitting here. But it was adjusted by $2 million, up, not down. It's also in the budget for next year and was in the budget for this year, both just under $500,000 additional. Do you know that the Board of Ed budget is not the most expensive budget after accounting for expenses and grants? We account for 12 million, or thereabouts, 12.5. Public safety, 14.5. Public Works, 20.6. So you are not the most expensive line item on the budget after accounting for grants. Your job is to advocate for these things to be done. When it was taken out of your charge and put with the town council, it is your job to say, hey, it's in the budget, let's get it done. Why are there numbers of $860,000 for boilers or heating systems, and now it's not there? And now they're asking for it again. It was there. It needs to stay there. You need to ask for it. That's your job. So where have you been? 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Peter Janitis.
I think it's Gina first, isn't it?
No, it's me. Can I go?
Peter, you're not coming?
I'll pass.
Jen Bruyette, please.
Thank you. Oh, good evening. Jennifer Briette, 19 Laurel Park. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Schumann and Mr. Drezik for taking the time to meet with me last week. And I'm thankful that you guys clarified the situation for me and allowing me to express the frustration and opposition to this decision. To the board, I understand that we no longer belong to CABE, the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. And if I may ask, why don't we belong anymore? How are members of the board learning to be board members? And do you believe that some professional development would be appropriate to prevent future errors in parliamentary procedure? Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Gina Sullivan.
Gina Sullivan, 11 Spear Avenue. Members of the Board of Ed, you asked the citizens of Enfield who care about education to come before you, to express our opinions. You say you want to hear from you folks. Well, we came to 2 public hearings. We submitted petitions with approximately 680 signatures in 1 month's time, because that's all the time you gave us. We came to your last Board of Ed meeting and politely expressed our opinions. We were told that our views and opinions and signatures represented 1.4% of the town's population. Yet those on this board who voted not to keep Fermi as an educational facility represent 0.0001333% of the town's population. You want to hear us? You want to know how we feel? You want to hear our opinions? Well, hear this.
Thank you, Gina. Eileen McDonald. Cora Beebe, Elizabeth Davis, Ken Simpson?
Kim.
Kim Simpson? No. Heather, Linda, Paula, Richard Rainier.
Richard Renier, 206 Abbey Road. Board members, I just wanted to come tonight and just make clear to you that the meeting prior to the vote, I watched a couple times on YouTube, and I must say that the presentation put together was excellent in regards to the numbers and taking into account everything that Mr. Peabody and Mr. Neville had presented that night. And I know a large voice of individuals can outpower those that do not come to meetings. But I can tell you that hearing things that people who do not come to the meetings, I know a lot of people who are in favor. I am a Fermi alumni, so it wasn't easy, obviously, to see your old building being shut down. But we have to look at times of economic stability and what's right for the town, and I believe that the board did that. So I just wanted to make that known. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come back up, Shannon.
Shannon Grant, 49 Yale Drive. There was one number on here also that I wanted to point out, and that is the number for Fermi High School pool rehab. There's a line item in the budget for $80,000 for a Fermi school rehab. $80,000 for a pool that's going to be closed. I find it a little disconcerting that things like boilers for schools were deleted before $80,000 in a school we are now closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Anyone else? Anyone else? Second time? Anyone else? Third time? Thank you very much. Moving on. Board member comments. Mr. Ludwig.
Again, I just, again, to hopefully say some positive things here. Unbelievable. Anyways, I want to and I apologize to my St. Martha's counterparts. I think they actually have a team going to the New Englands as well, and I apologize to Fran Slattery because he does a great job over there. However, since I coach at St. Bernard's, I just want to I want to say some positive things. There's a lot of positive things going on in the community, and one of them is that we have young people who are achieving. And the St. Bernard's boys varsity team is playing in the New England tournament down in Bridgeport on April 2nd. And the team that I coach, again, they succeeded despite me being their coach. They are down as well in the same tournament in Bridgeport on in April 2nd. So again, a lot of good stuff going on in the community. Again, education takes many forms. It's not just what happens within the school. It happens what's in communities. And I can tell you right now, someone who coaches 7th and 8th grade girls, we have a great group of young kids in this town. So I'm tired of all the negativity going on. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And if people actually take some time to go watch some of these games, they're going to see some well-mannered kids who play hard, who are respectful, and represent their school and their town with a great deal of dignity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ludwig. Ms. LeBlanc.
Just a couple things. I'm going to take a minute to thank Mr. Lee Erdman, the acting town manager, because for the first time in my term, he actually presented a fair budget for education, and I really appreciate him taking the time out to recognize our needs, because we really have a needs-based budget, really. So I was so pleased. Next, I just want to say thank you to Shannon Grant. You did an excellent job. I understand your frustration as I share it. I don't know why this stuff doesn't get done. I don't know why this stuff isn't a priority. We're taking a step in the right direction by combining a joint facilities committee that will allow the board to have a voice now, to say why isn't this getting done or what the priorities are. Because even though those buildings aren't under our budget, we use them. We live there. And I appreciate you digging through the budget like that. And you're absolutely right. So I appreciate that. Ms. Briette had left, but just to say, my first term on the board, we were members of CABE, and I went to a new board member seminar. Yeah, we all did. Tim was there, I was there. And basically, they do kind of teach you how to be a board member, to recognize that you're only speaking for one when you're voicing your personal opinion, you're not speaking for your other constituents. I definitely found it interesting and helpful. It also allows you to network with other boards of ed through the state of Connecticut, and we can trade, growing pains, tuitions, just different things. So it's definitely helpful. I believe it became a budgetary item, and that's why we no longer belong to CABE. On a positive note, like Mr. Ludwig was saying, the high school students are registering for their new classes. And for the first time since my daughter's been in high school, there's definitely more excitement in the classes that these kids are taking. A personal friend of mine went and sat with the guidance counselor, and it was like, okay, you need to... what about this class? Okay, another class. Oh, another class, because we're going to the block scheduling. And I definitely think the high school consolidation, as far as academics, is definitely exciting, and I feel like some of the kids are very excited about the new classes they can take. I definitely see that flexibility growing in the scheduling. So yes, I do agree that there's positive things happening in the schools right now. The Fermi prom was last week. The kids look great. The Enfield prom is this Thursday. So I hope the kids have a safe time, and then I hope everybody has a nice and safe, happy Easter.
Thank you, Ms. LeBlanc. Mr. Neville.
Just a couple of things here. First of all, somebody mentioned about the budget, and it's our responsibility to push for that. I think it was you, Shannon. You're absolutely right, and we do. Okay, I think we've also said that it's something that we can't do without the help of a lot of other people, and I think it's a good thing to have people come out. Okay, for an issue that we've just gone through, but come out for one issue when we're fighting a battle every single year for our budget. You know what our budgets have looked like, that's been a chronic issue, and I think people feel that things are just going to take care of themselves, and they really don't unless we all come out and say what's important to us. And I think you pointed out some things that, in my mind, I'm reading and saying, they made some choices about what's important and what isn't. And I think you saw the report that we gave, that we talked about the things that have been deferred maintenance that are key issues to run any kind of building, whether it be roofs or heating systems or boilers or whatever. So I applaud you for that. I'd like to get we didn't see the budget. They don't give it out to us until after it's presented. Are we going to get copies of that, Dr. Schuman?
I don't know if we'll get copies of it. They didn't put it up online.
Oh, it's online? It's online? Okay, I'd like to get that. I'd also like, if you're still around here at the end of the meeting, I'd like to just see what you're referring to, because I think they're very, very important. I'm not sure whether some of those issues were on the referendum, and because the referendum didn't go, they put them on here. I think, I'm guessing that Mr. Ergman cut them because he was trying to get a very large budget down. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know how you cut those kinds of things, which was the point I think the board was making through our report. These are priority one issues, and you can kick the can down the road for a year or two, but you can't do it forever, and I think we've got some things we have to deal with. Tina was correct about CABE. I found CABE to be a very, very important vehicle for the boards, and I know that my guess is, as we did with a lot of other things that we cut it out of the budget reluctantly because we were trying to save a teacher. Okay, we did a trade-off there. Our budget was so tight that we could either take that kind of money, I think it's $20,000 or $27,000, somewhere around there, and that was half a teacher at that point in time, or thereabouts. And so we made that was a conscious decision on our part to take it away from us and give it back to the kids. The $80,000 for the pool, I'm not sure of. It depends on. I know it needs rehabilitation. I know when we did the pool at JFK, it was probably over $500,000 to rehab it after 30 or 40 years. I'm not sure what's been done there, and I know that their intent is, and they still use it for the community, and they still use it for some teams out there. So I'm not sure what that's about. But I guess what we'd like to do is have some explanation as to why we're choosing one over the other. And I wish we were having a bigger discussion about that. I applaud you for bringing it up here. We'd love to have that discussion, and maybe we can when we get a copy of the budget and get answers to your questions. And finally, with the actually two other things. Like Tina, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Ergman, because he put through a very, very comprehensive budget, I think. And watching it on TV, which is all I could do, I was really, really pleased after going through. This is our fifth year the group that came in with Tina and I, of going through it, and we have never come that close. We've just taken big cuts. I think he gave a rationale as to why he did it. I think the council and the town manager were very receptive to us when we went before them with our needs. I think everybody would agree with that, and we're going to be meeting with them another couple of times, which has not happened in the past, really. We've only done one meeting with them. So we're trying to build some bridges in there. And last, the issue that came up about the pre-referendum. Now, if you remember the meeting that we had and the presentation we gave, we talked about two things we needed to do. One, we needed to do the fields no matter what happens to this thing. The fields have been neglected for decades, and we needed to address that with the town council. And I think the pre-referendum is part of that. The same thing with the portables and some of those things. Those are not new things. We've gone to the council many times. They're on record as saying that we need them, but they always get cut. So what we're trying to do is get that through it. The money that's needed for both of those items requires a referendum. And to go through the process that we did with Enfield High School in order to get to a referendum, you have to have a pre-referendum committee that examines it and brings the charge, if they agree with it, back to the council so they can set up a referendum. It's not something that we would have done as part of the process, because it's something that has to be done in order to get a referendum together. So that's the other thing. And finally, I applaud people's right of free speech here to come here and do what they want to do. I know they're passionate and upset about it. I guess what bothers me the most is that we heard time and time again here and in memos that have come to us, emails, phone calls, that we're not listening. The issue isn't that we're not listening. Okay, we've all listened. I mean, I think we've read just about everything that's come there. We've talked to people as often as they've called us or talked to us. It's an issue is that the data didn't agree with what they were asking us to do. And I think it's not that we didn't listen. We didn't agree with what we were hearing. It didn't mesh with the data that we had in front of us. Certainly respect that they disagree with us, but it's not that we didn't listen. And I think we're not counting up the number of people who stand before us. We're using our intelligence and analytical skills to look at what we have and our responsibility to the town and the oath that we took when we took on this board here to do it. And I'm sorry that we disagree with some of the folks out here, but that's our job, is to find a balance. And I don't know any other way to deal with it. I'd certainly be willing to talk to folks if they needed to understand it more, but it's not about not listening. It's about not agreeing with the data that was presented to us. So with that said, I'll pass it on to you, Stace.
Thank you, Mr. Neville. Ms. Thurston.
I'm going to stick with what Mr. Ludwig said about positive things, but I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to talk about a teacher. And if she's watching, she's probably going to shoot me, or I'll get a text later from her. Huh? I know. Sorry, I didn't remember. Charlotte Zenzik, the fifth grade teacher at Eli Whitney, who is just absolutely remarkable. She is a wonderful friend. I absolutely adore her. Friday night, her and her husband, CJ, took part in basically a Dances with the Stars. And they belong to an organization called Donate Life Connecticut. And it encourages people to spread the word about becoming an organ donor. And her and CJ were part of it. They did an absolute phenomenal job. They looked absolutely incredible. And they raised over $3,000 for the organization. So I just wanted to send a shout out to Charlotte. And if you're watching, I'm proud of you. I love you. And I will talk to you soon. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Thurston. Mr. Grady.
Well, again, I'd like to jump onto Dr. Schumann's kudos to the Buzz Robotics. I remember when I first got on the board, I attended a competition down in Hartford at the convention center. It is just amazing what these kids can do when given a task and put together a robot to do that task. And I can just imagine what they have this year to do, but congratulations on that. I also like to congratulate, if I'm out of turn here, the girls basketball team at Enfield High School. They had a great run, and kudos to you guys. Came up a little short, but you put your heart and soul in it, and congratulations on doing that. I also would like to compliment Wendy Osada. She was at the town council meeting last night, and she spoke on the issue with Fermi and JFK, and she made sense. I think what she was asking is that there's costs for both, and when you have new construction at JFK and compared to renovations at Fermi, that the cost might balance out or even be better to do a renovation. So I know that's over and done with, but I wish we, like I said from last time, I wish we would have listened and taken a step back and gotten some more information and made an informed decision on some more hard figures. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grady. Mr. Kuzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want kudos to Buzz Robotics. Did a great job at the event in Worcester. They have a dinner dance coming up at the Enfield Elks Club on Saturday, April 9th from 7 p.m. to 12 p.m. And I think there's tickets online or at their Facebook page. But somebody will get you, call the school, they'll get you tickets. Or I think there's even tickets at the door, so that's available. And just want to wish everyone a happy Easter.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzel. Mr. Peabody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, congratulations to Buzz Robotics, Enfield girls basketball team, great run. But I want to just not so much give a shout out, but give a voice of support to one of our former students. His first name is Kevin, and I'll give his last name. He graduated 2012 from Enfield High School. He's had some troubles in his life. He never took drugs. He went to work. He flipped burgers at McDonald's. Is now working full time, and he's going as an Untuck to get an associate's degree in manufacturing. That's the kind of resiliency I think that Mr. Ludwig talked about a few weeks ago in one of his comments. That's what we have in this town. We have a lot of kids that will work hard, given the support, and just little helping hand, little guidance, or whatever they need. So keep up the good work, Kevin. Let me know what's going on. We've known each other for a while. That's great. Let's see. So much. Shannon, you're right. I've been accused of being a numbers guy. And the one thing that I do want to say is why. I'm a numbers guy because each number represents what we can and cannot do for our students. That's why I'll sit there, I'll work all through the night looking at the budget book, doing scenarios and spreadsheets, and that's just my nature. And yeah, I do kind of get at it with our people that meet here on Monday nights, the town council, and say, what are you doing? And we do have a great opportunity coming up, as in the first budget session, the council's agreed to meet with us through a budget workshop, and we're working on tightening that bond and building a bridge with the town council. So these items you have, I haven't gone through the details of the budget yet. It was presented last night. I will, and I'll bet you that there's still some more issues that items that could be looked at. But we do have a responsibility on the board, and the responsibility is to ensure that we are the number 2 priority in town. We'll never replace public safety as number 1, but it's our job, I think, and I might be wrong, but I think it's our job to support the superintendent and presenting the case, make the case for us being number 2, and everything else in town could be number 3. I'm sure I'm making a lot of friends out there, but education has to be number 2. And as I said before many times, the Enfield Public Schools should be the shining star of the town of Enfield, period. So that's where I'm going to go on that. I'm looking forward to working with the town council. They're open, they're willing. I think we have an opportunity that we haven't had since I've been on the board for, this is my second term. Great, I think that the town manager did a very fair and just job in presenting the numbers. It's our job to go and make sure they happen. One of the things that we've done is a gradual turnaround, presenting where we are with the budget. The fact that maybe 52, 56% of our budget comes from the town. The rest comes from the state, federal, and private grants. And that information we put out there, we put it in front of the town council, and I think it's bearing fruit. So we'll see what happens as we go forward. Fermi decision. What I'm going to say is that I was asked why. A number of times I voted, and I want to explain that. I was told you don't have to, but I'm going to. Saturday morning before the vote, I took all the information I had. I took the posted sheets from the committee meetings, and I went through them. I went through all the comments that were presented to me, and I didn't put cost in there. Believe it or not, Shannon, I didn't put cost in there. I looked at benefit and value add, and I just came to the conclusion that the building does have an educational use, but just not as a middle school. The demographics, the teacher comments, they just didn't match. So that's why I voted the way I did. And if anybody wants to talk to me about it again, I'll be happy to defend my decision or present my decision. I'll save the other comments for committee reports, but thank you very much for listening, guys. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm very proud to work with you folks on what we work on. We do disagree, but we keep a professional and polite air about us and respectful air, and I do appreciate that. I know that I'm a royal pain. Okay, I'll admit that. You know, you should get a shirt. You know, I'll take a shirt, you know, size extra large. But my intentions. Yeah, well, you know, the hell with your 3 minutes. I break the rules, remember? Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate the love. But anyway, thanks, and I look forward to the budget season with you and with Dr. Schuman and Mr. Drezek.
Thank you, Mr. Peabody. Congratulations and welcome to Mr. Erdman, who has had his temporary contract extended. Welcome to the House of Fun. Congratulations to Budge Robotics, but there's somebody else that you guys need to know about, and it's from our Gifted and Talented program, and they're called Sea Perch. Now, Sea Perch is an underwater robotics team that we have, and they just recently did very, very well, and they should be commended too. I've asked the doctor to have them come make an appearance in front of us so that we can you can see what they do. I think it's really awesome, and you guys should be really proud of that.
Can we go to the pool?
Let's see. There's a lot of things that float around on social media that people just accept as truth. And one of these issues was pointed out to me recently because I try not to pay attention to it because it's government of Facebook and I don't go down that road. Someone actually said that the special education budget for the entire school district of Enfield was only $499,000. And I was shown it, and I was like, that is absolutely grossly wrong. The last year's actual budget was $11,643,161. That's available on page 89 of the proposed budget this year. And this year, we're currently asking for $11,815,229. So just because you read it and it's on the internet, it doesn't make it true. We, every year when we approach the council, we ask for what we need. And the council then makes a determination as to what we can afford. And I've said it every year since I've been on board the board, and I will continue to say it until it gets corrected. You cannot say that you are favor education, specifically K-12 education, when, as an example of special education, a federal law says that we spend 4.5 times for our kids that need special education, and that for every penny that you spend over that, the state is supposed to reimburse you 100%, and because they have budgetary issues, they turn around and reimburse you 73%. That's what it's like to deal with the folks that are a whole lot higher than the town. And those numbers that we get shorted is anywhere between $12 and $14 million a year. $12 and $14 million is a whole lot of school maintenance. $12 and $14 million is a whole lot of things that we can do. And every time that we ask for that, we are told no. There are other priorities. Post-secondary education is lumped into our educational bill when they talk about education funding. That's UConn. That's not what the state constitution says. It says free public education. They mean K-12. So when you're dealing with a benefactor who's supposed to fund you fully and they don't, it ripples down. And that's been going on for 40 years. Much like deferred maintenance. There's repercussions well beyond the town. We dumped CABE because of a financial pinch, honestly. We currently go through Shipman and Goodman, and they too have made available board member training. They're less expensive, but they're not part of that organization. As far as, one of the reasons I ran for the board this time was to provide continuity. I was there in the beginning when we reorganized the district. I was there in the beginning when we evaluated when we came up with this idea where we were going. I was there when every educator that looked at the middle school idea back then said, no, we would prefer to be at JFK. I was there when the first big report that we got conveniently states on page 3 or page 4, and I don't want to mention the company's name, that when they evaluated the Fermi building, they had no prints to do it from. They had no structural drawings, and they were guessing. That's one of the reasons the report got thrown out. So there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of history here of how we got to where we got. And very little has changed. One of the things that I do know is we're following a very similar process that we did when it came to picking the high school. The pre-referendum committee got formed, and then they designed the school, not the other way around. We had an idea of what stuff cost, but it was a baseline idea, again, especially when it came to Fermi, because they didn't have a print that they went on. That's the truth. A compelling argument to switch a decision made in 2009 was never made, not with up-to-date information. And the up-to-date information that we used was created by independent people who do this for a living. Do we have baselines? Yes, we have baselines. The same baselines that we had when we decided a location for the high school. That's why we went with the way we did. Then I'll gladly explain it to anybody who wants to talk. But they have to talk about it. They can't give the single finger salute. They can't swear. They can't say words that I would not say in front of my children, which happened the last meeting. That's not respectful. That's not how you have a conversation. And that happened. Moving on. Unfinished business, transition update. Dr. Schuman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 items tonight. The first one is the air compressor at Enfield High. As you recall, there was a problem with the voltage that has been fixed. The air compressor is used in the chem labs to supply air to them. It's also used in the tech ed rooms for plasma cutters and other machines. It's used in the dust collection system, and it's used for the pneumatic tools in the auto shop. Currently, although the compressor is up and running, there is a chiller involved in that unit that dries the air. The chiller is not operating functionally. The air is coming out too humid, and so it cannot be used in the tech ed rooms or the dust collection system because those devices require dry air. The chemistry room and the pneumatic tools, because the pneumatic tools are oiled, are able to get by using the air. So we have some functionality of the compressor. The experts were coming out today or tomorrow to try to get that up and running by the weekend, and then all the devices that should be running on compressed air should be up and running. So we'll keep you posted on that. Secondly, about a dozen students came to central office this morning to meet with Mr. Drezek, myself, Mr. Newton, Mr. Longy, and Mr. Barassa. These students were part of the Connecticut Association of Schools Leadership Summit, and they had an idea. They had an idea about the merger and how to make it go smoother. This is an idea that I fully support. It's an idea that I was going to share with you tonight, but I don't have to, because one of the young ladies who gave us that information is Abby Bosco, and she just happens to be here tonight, so I've asked her to come forward, if she would, and share that idea with you, and I think you'll be very impressed with the things that the students have decided to try. Abby?
Welcome, Abby.
Hello, it's nice to see. Oh man, I'll try to talk fast then. So at our recent student leadership board meeting, someone proposed an idea they're doing with the school where they have their partner school, and for one day students from their school will go to their partner school and shadow students there, and then another day, students from the partner school will come and shadow their school. To do this is to promote a better climate between the school because they had a lot of tension between them. And so we were thinking that we should do that with Fermi and Enfield to help, to help with the tensions, because everyone always knows it's Fermi versus Enfield, but we can't do that anymore. We're one school, we're the Eagles. And so we decided that it'd probably be a good idea, especially seeing as there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for like orientations. So this could help take place of those for some students to get acquainted with the new building and even make more friends. So when they, like Fermi students, come to Enfield, it won't be as anxious for them. And when Enfield students have Fermi come, they'll know people, they'll know everyone, it'll be better for them. We just were hoping to promote a better school climate.
Awesome, Abby, thank you.
But one of the things that they're going to work out, the students are going to work out all the logistics of getting the partners together, people who want to host people who want to come for the visit, and they're going to do it over several days in May, knowing that we can't have everyone come on one day, but they'll do it over several days during May, and they'll plan all that and schedule it, and we'll let you know how that goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ludwig.
Abby, again, this is, I think, the third or fourth time you come before us, and yourself and the rest of the students who have actually come before us in the last 3 months have done a fantastic job of articulating what you believe in, what you, again, started with the grade issue back in what seems like 8 months ago. But again, I hope some adults watch how you folks as students have handled yourself. I mean, it's impressive, and it's great to see, again, you coming up with ideas. And again, I agree. I think it's a great idea. So again, keep up the good work.
Yes.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
We're very proud of you guys.
Thank you, Abby, you guys are great.
We also talked about some other things about the schedule and things like that, and it was very interesting to hear that they are moving forward and getting ready to embrace the change. They realize that there will be a change in their lives and the way they go about schooling, but they're excited for it on the whole.
And coming from the students, that's what's most important, because us as adults, we can say that we want it, but when it comes from the students, it's really heartfelt, and I really appreciate that they're taking this time to do that.
I agree. And that's what we have for you for a transition update.
Mr. Ludwig?
So, question, actually, so the way the parking lot at Enfield High, I know this isn't necessarily a transition issue, but when they park near where the old entrance is, when you pull in, you go to the right. Yeah, so when they have to cross over to go into the new building. Do we have anyone monitor that? Because there are kids who just cross right over there. I dropped my daughter off at school like a week ago, and some other parents have actually commented about this as well. Kids are actually walking right across that entranceway, the driveway before you come in to drop your kids off. And honestly, some of them just aren't looking. I don't know if we have anyone there. Like at JFK, you have the adults who, when they park, and they're right there. I suggest maybe we have someone standing out where the boardwalk is there, where the old parking lot is when you cross over into where folks drive in to drop their kids off. And again, I'm not making any other than there are a lot of kids who cross over and aren't necessarily looking, just afraid that someone may, get hit.
I would agree. Well, I'll talk to Mr. Longy about that. We set up the tunnel there for them, and the students
Right,
decided that was not going to be a good idea.
None of them
They have not
I mean,
used it yet. So
I can say it twice.
I'm not interested in that.
Most of them are, yeah.
No, that's nice out, yeah.
And so it's just a safety thing.
Actually, I'm going to refer this question to Mr. Krzel, if you don't mind. And don't take this as a criticism. It's not. The issues that we're having with the air compressor and the issues that you had with the lifts and all that stuff, should that stuff been rectified, or was it an ordering problem that this stuff didn't come in on time before the kids got in there? Or?
I know we had a problem with the compressor and the lifts, that the order was sent out,
Yeah.
and the company that they ordered it from, it was a delay in ordering through the purchasing in Town Hall.
Okay.
And it was a delay, and then the PO says, well, I have X amount of time, and we kept, the building committee and the CMR kept telling them, no, we need them now, no, we need them now. And yes, we were told it was here, and it was here, and here. I did not hear anything about this chiller, so this is all new to me, too. So I will find out what happened there, and I will get back to you.
Yeah, just like I said, no criticism. Just
that's
stuff like this. I'm wondering why we're having problems or delays and stuff. If and I know the building committee has done an excellent job, and Randy and all those guys.
I will relay to my former
Okay.
colleagues and find out what I can find out.
Mr. Neville?
Yeah, just a couple of other things. I mean, we had parents come up before us, I'm going to say over a month and a half ago, probably complaining that, some of these things weren't in there. And Randy and the building committee, I bet we met on this a dozen times, and the superintendent was involved and so on. The company just was not responding to what went on here. And, I think 2 meetings ago, maybe, that when you and I went down, you took pictures of it, the lifts were working, and we saw the compressor, but it was wired for the wrong voltage. I have no idea what that was. They were going to do that, but nobody ever mentioned the chiller. And, we had heard 2 weeks ago that it was up and running and everything was going well, but I guess, that's what warranties are for. But, it wasn't, as you said, the building committee did their due diligence. This company was just stretching it out to the letter of the law, and they just weren't responding. It was trapped for a couple of weeks, I think, between California and here. We couldn't even find out where it was. So hopefully, I think we've taken steps to make sure that doesn't happen again. So hopefully.
I can say one thing. The invoice has not come in front of the budget subcommittee yet, and I think it's buried somewhere right now. So the payment has not got out to this company. The goods are there, other than like I said, I'll find out about this chiller. I don't understand this. But no payment's been made to this company. I know that.
New business, item 11A and 11B. I need a motion to table item 11A.
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion. The council hasn't taken this up, and until they take this up, we can't take this up. So that's why it's being tabled. So is there any other discussion? And a roll call. Motion is to table.
Mr. Ludwig?
4.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston? Yes. Mr. Grady?
Sure.
Mr. Crizell?
4.
Mr. Peabody?
Affirmative.
Chairman Sirard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'll entertain a motion to table item 11B.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? None. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ludwig?
4.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Neville?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurston? Yes. Mr. Grady?
Yes.
Mr. Crizell?
4.
Mr. Peabody?
Affirmative.
Chairman Sirard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Both of those items are tabled. Moving on to item 12, Board Committee Reports. Building Committee, Mr. Crizell.
Not much more to add, other than the gym is supposed to be online right before our April break there, I believe. And they are moving along with A-Wing. It's all systems go. The weather's been, thank God, has been on our side, and yeah. I mean, we had a 90-minute delay Monday, but by 10 o'clock, I think the snow melted, so, which is all right. We keep the weather going, and they're plugging along, so.
Curriculum Committee.
Could I just throw one more thing in there? I think they're going to meet they're meeting Thursday to talk about this issue as well, and I know that they've talked, I think, to Dr. Schuman about it. It's the issue of the stoplight that they wanted to have at the top of the hill there. And I know they did a traffic study, I don't know how long ago, but yeah, and I think the consensus was at that time that we didn't need it. And I think the committee feels pretty strongly that compared to 700 students going up the hill and taking that turn, that with 1,500 students, it's a safety issue. And I think we're going to keep pushing for it. I think they're going to try to get our legislators involved in this because it's a state highway, Enfield Street, and the state would have to be involved in it. But some way or the other, you have to do it. And the other issue is, without a stoplight, you need to either have a police officer up there or somebody directing traffic and probably stop kids from taking a left turn there. They'll have to turn right because there's just no way at opening and dismissal time that you can handle that much traffic. Plus all the parents, not just the kids, but the parents who come in there. So that's another thing. At the end of the meeting, I took Randy out to show them an area there that I'd asked him to look at. He's going to look at it. We go into the Fermi wing. The dirt strip that's going to be a grass strip. It's already seeing people walk over it, and it's going downhill. And particularly when the ice was there, I did it myself. It's not a good idea. But they've noticed the kids are just mapping out their own path as they go through there, and they need to either put something there, to stairs or a ramp or something, so that set up the path. One way to do it is look and see where the kids are going and put the ramp wherever they're using it to cross. And I think you'd brought up the question of when you bring your kid into school, the kids are just crossing.
Right.
And I think these things were said a long time ago. Now that we have some history with the kids, I think we need to do something, because it's really, it's a dangerous situation. I mean, it's a real steep slope, especially when you get up on the left-hand side of that. So I just bring that up, but I think Wendy Osada is making a big case for this. I think she feels strongly about it. I think we all do as well about the stoplight and dealing with that issue before we open. They were talking about doing it after we open. It's too late. You know, the horse is out of the barn at that point, and I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't think anybody does. So
Why don't you just put someone there when the school comes out? Because the problem is when people try to go right, when they go through the breakdown lane.
Yeah.
If you ever notice, when you're out of town, people will go flying through that breakdown lane. That's where I think the biggest danger is, actually nailing someone. Because people don't want to wait for a car going left.
Yep.
And
Now-
for someone that lives on that street, I would appreciate no accidents. Thank you.
So you live almost, you're right near there, yeah?
Yes, I do.
I mean, so anyway, we're going to bring this up regularly, so whatever we can do to get it moving along, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Curriculum?
We met last Wednesday. Was it last Wednesday, wasn't it? And basically, we had a couple of things in there. One was the AP offerings chart. I don't know whether Ms. Middleton gave you copies of those, Dr. Schuman. We were going to give them out to the board, but if she didn't, if we could get them out to the board. It's this chart here that shows our AP offerings. We had asked her to bring it to us. It's kind of like one of those value-added things. We've changed an awful lot, the number of courses. We've added a number of AP courses, and I think this gives the board kind of a history of when they came in, which ones are being offered. I think we've almost doubled them, haven't we, Dr. Schuman? And from when you came in?
By the end of 2017-18.
Yeah. So I think this is something that we should shout out about and let people know, and I think we have a lot more kids taking those courses. I think that, you know, it's giving kids opportunities when they go to college to kind of not take a course because they've passed out of it with the AP courses, and it's pretty amazing. I think we were impressed. We knew we were making changes because we were getting them to bring the course of studies issues to us, but it's unbelievable how many have happened just in the time that we've been on the curriculum committee. So I appreciate if that would get out. The second thing is, and we started this last year, it's the update on the standards-based report cards. We did, I think, K through 2 a year ago, wasn't it? And what Ms. Middleton did was she set up a committee to deal with this, and we had a group of parents that tried it out. They went through this whole thing, and then they came back and reported to us how well it went or what things we could do to improve it. And I think we all found that that was very, very helpful. So what they're doing is they're starting the whole thing over again, but for grades 3 to 5. And they're going to share the drafts with us and go through the process with us, and then the parents will be coming to us at the end. We'll meet with them and hear from them how well it's working and how we can improve it. I just think that's a good way to do it, to make sure that what we think we're doing is working with the people who are getting this. So if anybody wants any information on that, as we get it, we'll be happy to share it with all of you. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm good.
Ray?
So those are the things that you just mentioned, and I think some of the criticism we've taken with communication, all sort of things. Here's the thing where, again, we've changed. You folks have worked on changing the curriculum. Obviously, it's positive. Why don't we have some sort of workshop showing that? You know, having, instead of all the stuff that we've dealt with, here's some of the things we've changed over the last 2 to 3 years. Here's some of the results. Have the kids show up who are taking the classes, could speak to it. Why don't we communicate that to people? Why don't we have some kind of workshop or something? Because that's good. I mean, that's what we should be doing, pushing out, as opposed to sending people to the website that's tough to deal. I mean, I've heard a lot of criticism. People can't find anything on the website. So here's the thing where we can push out to people.
Oh, you must be eavesdropping on our meetings.
I'm not. I
because-
don't listen in.
Because we've been pushing Ms. Middleton to get this stuff out. We'd like to have her work with the superintendent to bring some of these things to the board and present them to the board, because there's an awful lot going on. All the positive things that you guys are talking about, you know, we don't bring these things out in the open, and we need to.
Mr. Peabody?
Yeah, one of the things we've also been talking about is last year we did have students come up and present the Lexia reading program and a couple other things, but we also need to get these in front of the town council, show the community and show the council what we're doing and the positive impact this has. And the other point I'm going to make is the changes that are being made in curriculum are budget friendly. Either something's been dropped and replaced, or it's low cost of ownership or no cost of ownership. So I think that's an important fact to understand.
Very good. Finance Committee.
Keep going, man. You got 3 minutes.
Am I supposed to memorize this now? No, that's another thing. That's later. We did have, the Finance Committee did meet yesterday. It was a very, I want to thank Tina and Walter and Mr. Drezik and Pat Post for being there, Pat West, rather. Great meeting, and we do handle, and I can't look at you. It was a good meeting. We do discuss things that are related to finance. We do manage things through finance, and we've had some explanations on some of the things that do happen. We'll be making motions later when it comes down to the approval of accounts and payroll, but we're also going to be reaching out to the chairman with a letter from the Finance Committee asking us to reassess CABE. There's a lot of good reasons for it. Things have changed. One thing that's pointed out to us is we have a very active board, and we can take advantage of that, especially with all the changes going on in Hartford. So you're receiving a communication from the Finance Committee soon as I type it up, to reinvestigate rejoining CABE.
Mike timed you.
Yeah, you get 2 minutes.
I timed Tom before, and you got close to
Mr. Ludwig.
Policy. We did meet, Walter, Vinny and I, and Mr. Drezik. We have a number of state kind of requirements or guidelines or statutes, I guess is the best way of saying it, that we're dealing with, we're reviewing, that we'll have probably before the board late April, maybe early May. So we're working through languages that, that the state passed last session. We didn't take any votes. I think we're reviewing the data, how it affects our current guidelines. Again, they're mandated through the state, so other than having discussions on what what the state is mandating, I'm not sure there's much we can do from that perspective. And we have, I don't want to speak for Vinny and Walter, but I think we have a little bit of a solution or maybe a step if folks are talking about CABE. From our understanding, without jumping right back in saying we want to be a member, our understanding that they could maybe do some audit services for us. For example, our policies haven't been audited in 3-4 years, roughly. Maybe 7. Oh, 7. All right, I was being kind. 7 years. Really, these are things that should be audited. Again, these are things you should review on probably a biannual basis, especially every board. Their guidelines make sure you're in compliance. The cost is much different than obviously a full membership. Chris is kind of researching what the cost may be. That might not be a bad first step in if folks to see how that works. Have them review our policies, and then we can go from there at a much reduced cost as opposed to just jumping back in, and spending 27 grand, whatever it may be. So I don't know, Vinny or Walter, if you guys have anything. Chris, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, we'll probably have an update on cost maybe in April-ish. Yeah. So that might not be a bad suggestion to put our toe back in to see if we really want to be a full member again, to see how they do, on an audit perspective. And we really do need to audit our policies to make sure we're compliant. So it's a needed service.
Very good, Mr. Ludwig. Approval of minutes, special meeting minutes, March 2nd, 2016. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Kuzell, seconded by Mr. Grady? No, Mr. Neville. Any discussion or alteration? Show of hands, approve the minutes. 2 abstentions. Regular meeting minutes, March 8th, 2016. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Motion made by Mr. Kuzell, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any corrections or alterations? Sensing none, show of hands. Very good. Approval of accounts and payrolls. Mr. Peabody.
It took me like 3 times, okay? Finance Committee met on March 21st, 2016 to review financial statements for the month of February, year-to-date, and to examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded there is nothing significant to report to the board. Motion, I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that the month of February, total expenditures amounting to $5,478,273.36, broken down between payroll totaling $3,905,750.41 and other accounts totaling $1,572,522.95. All payments have been made in accordance with approval of the budget, with the approved budget, and are properly accounted for within the board books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Do we have any line item transfers?
Oh, my goodness. No.
Item 15, correspondence and communications. Ms. LeBlanc.
We all have an invitation from the Enfield Veterans Council to march in the Memorial Day Parade on Sunday, March 29th at 1 p.m. The parade will begin at the Felician Sisters residence, the corner of South Road and Enfield Street, to the front of the gazebo on the town green. The Veterans Council would like you to RSVP by April 4th, and the address is on the envelope.
Thank you, Ms. LeBlanc. Audiences. Lori Bosco.
Lori Bosco, 35 Simon Road. Having you guys, Mr. Ludwig and Mr. Neville, speak about the school and the parking and driving situation, I think another issue that they need to address is, as a parent who ends up at the school quite a bit, they have a sign that says visitor parking. You pull in to go to visitor parking, and there is no visitor parking because apparently the teachers are using it. There's no marked spots, so you end up parking somewhere around the back of the building or somewhere else. I think if they need to designate, like they used to, spaces for not just parents, but there's always people coming in to do presentations, college reps, whatever. If they could at least mark some of those spots and keep them for people who are visiting the school and make the people who are there all the time. I mean, I know there's spots around the back and the other lot as well, if they could use those. That was really...
Thank you, Ms. Bosco. Abby Bosco.
I just heard you guys talking about the schedule and the AP classes, and I wanted to say that it's fantastic. As someone who's taken many, it's great to say that there's going to be more for people like me and me next year. Coming out of Enfield High, I'll have around 45 college credits, and that's amazing.
Wow.
That's what you guys have allowed me to do as a student, and I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
You earned it.
Any other audiences? Any other audiences? Any other audiences? Sensing none, we have a need to go into executive session. May I have a motion to go into executive
So moved.
session? Motion made by
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
we do not have a need this evening. Unless you folks have a need. Mr.
Rescind.
Jessica and I.
We have a need to go into executive session.
Okay, I don't know. Fine.
Motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
All in favor? We're in executive session.